a plan.
Yeah.
Let's have a plan is the title of our topic tonight. That's the whole
Yeah.
series we are running, and we are
Mm-hmm.
running this in different areas.
Yeah.
Last week we talked agriculture. Today is water, sanitation, and the environment. At some
Mm-hmm.
point, we're going to be discussing education, healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
the economy, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
Talk to me the importance of discussing plans.
What the importance of discussing plan give us a map and an action orientation to plan for everything we want to do. And the whole essence of planning, it gave you the responsibility to evaluate, to monitor in the implementation process. And when it comes to the environment, it is very critical that the planning process takes place in terms of how we go about dealing with the issue that are that form part of the environment. But first of all, we have to clearly understand what is the environment. And not using the textbook definition, I will move into what I consider most simplistic. The environment can be considered as you as a human being, so to speak. And your body is such that you're supposed to put something in your body that is good enough to keep you healthy and to keep you active and productive. If you put anything in your body that is not needed, you will either get sick and subsequently lead to something even more dangerous. And so is your house. The house is built, and there's a reason why they put a roof over the house. There's a reason why there's a window to the house. There's a reason why there's a bathroom in the house. If you don't treat those things in your house carefully, your house become unlivable. You get sick. And that can also be translated into your environment, your local surrounding. If you do not take care of your own local community or so, what comes back to you is illness through the water you drink, through lack of sanitation, and through maybe lack of many other things. Because the environment is the area where your nurturing process begins and there it ends. So anything within that environment that form part of you must be critically examined. And that leads to the issue of policy driven by the entity or institution, so to speak. And so, in a clear context of that, that is how the environment functions. So, if you befriend the environment, the dividend that you get from there would be being healthy. And when you're healthy, you can be productive. And when you are productive, it have to bring in economic development. And this is where the issue of economy comes in. So they are all intertwined.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. Let's have a plan. Water, sanitation, and the environment. My guest is Maurice Tennessee Koffa. He's an environmental and disaster management practitioner joining us from the state of Maryland. Here is how we're going to proceed tonight. So, for this plan, in order to have a plan, we must first know what our current situation is when it comes to water, sanitation, and the environment. What does it look like? And then we're going to talk about the link, the water, sanitation, the environment, your health, the economy, everything intertwined. We want to lay that foundation. Dr. Koffa will talk about the strategic goal when we say water, environment, sanitation. What is the goal? What is the utmost goal thing that we want to get at? Of course, whenever you want to get somewhere, there are challenges. We're going to lay that out, and then we talk about the action plan, the step-by-step things that we're going to do to get where we want to get when it comes to water, sanitation, and the environment. And of course, we don't have the dollar and cents really lay out, but we can estimate the cost associated with what we're going to do. So, Dr. Koffa,
Yeah.
let's start with our current situation. How does Liberia look like when it comes to water, sanitation, and the environment?
The issue of sanitation in Liberia is a problem. And many of the contributing factors that led to the problem today happen to be the um, series of problems that Liberia had from the civil conflict, then came in Ebola, Now we are facing the COVID, and I hear the Delta variant that is taking place in the country. The issue of sanitation has been a very serious challenge for Liberia, and it is just as bad as the rest of the other environmental concerns, though they are good success story that can be told from the involvement of the Environmental Protection Agency. But the current state of sanitation in Liberia now is deplorable. About less than 10% of the population have access to safe drinking water. The 90% are at the mercy of God. The water body from which most of our people in the rural area that they used to drink, the rivers are all contaminated, either from logging company or from some giant company that carry on some construction or some development with respect to the drinking water. Take, for example, Lamco, Firestone, and the other mining companies that are carrying on activities currently in the country. They have not paid much attention to putting in place the kind of resistant perimeters to ensure that the water bodies are clean, even though the rivers in most of our places they have natural purification system. The river themselves, just as they are made, they can clean themselves. But when you pour heavy debris from construction or mining that contain other chemicals, you destroy the water quality and the water quality. And so the people who drink the water from this river are being impacted. And the other issue is the sanitation with respect to latrines. Most of the homes that are built in Liberia do not have facility to carry out the defecation that are done in most of the homes. So while people just take them in like chimba, they just dump them in nearby river and nearby creek. And other these things carry vector-borne diseases that impact the water quality our people drink. But even with the water bottle that the people sell in the store, in the supermarket, there is no quality control or testing mechanism to the point that every water that you find in the supermarket to have quality control to see whether it is of quality to drink or not. Only because the EPA is not capacitated enough to carry out such kind of testing. And so the issue are grave. But to the EPA credit, since the establishment of the Environmental Protection Agency in Liberia that became fully functional in 2006, the agency have been trying their best in terms of EIA. EIA means Environmental Impact Assessment. And so most of the giant companies now that are doing businesses in Liberia now go through EPA to make sure they get a permit for them to carry out certain environmental work with respect to the nature of their functions. But even at that, it's a challenge because EPA is also incapacitated to carry out the kind of inspection that are needed to make sure that the people are following the rules. So because of the lack of budgetary allotment and training staff for the agency, they are being underserved in terms of meeting the needs of the Liberian people. Then it takes us to the more profound urgency right before us now with respect to the solid waste. The solid waste in Liberia is another serious danger. As we speak now, piles of garbage are all around in the country, and the people are suffering because the current state of the Delta virus, a variant that is now in the country, and other things make it even more challenging for the people to live through these fields. And this is a condition that has claimed all of our attention to do something to make sure that we give our people a better living condition from this part of trash that are in the streets. And then the issue of mining. We have artisanal mining condition going on and the concession mining. The concession mining are being certificated by government, which means that they are kind of a control and police. But the artisanal mining, they are open. That everybody out there, especially in the poor rural area, because they want to make a living, they take their very self, their body and everything and use it to dig in order to find something they refer to as gold to make to make an honest living. As a result of that, they put their life at risk. Many of them died. And some of them, when the whole thing collapsed, because when they are digging, they don't bear in mind that, those trenches could one day collapse on them. And we have read several cases and pay attention and those things that happen. And there's so much that is going on in the country with respect to the issue of taking care of the environment. And it is of concern that must demand our attention to act, and I mean to act now.
Thank you. That's the current situation, as you can hear from Dr. Koffa. So, looking at the current situation, let's link that to the economy. So, and what are something that I call water, sanitation, the environment, and the economy. What's the impact? Still continuing with the current situation.
Well, there's a severe impact with respect to the economy because, in order for you to have a robust and a sustainable economy, you must have a healthy human resource. When the people are not healthy, they can't go to work. There's a high level of absenteeism, and absenteeism leads to low productivity. So if the companies that are going there to hire Liberians, if those Liberians are not healthy as because of the poor environmental condition that they live in, then chances are they have to bring in foreigners to do the work that Liberian could do. But how can you kind of balance that is the question that the government have to address. But the situation of the poor environmental condition have been around for quite some time. And Liberians are losing at the edge of it because most of the company, they have to bring in expatriates because most of the people, most of the Liberians that are there, either they're not healthy or just something is not going right with them. And so they can't perform the kind of duty that the company want them to perform. And that is a very serious situation. And even the environmental situation that's supposed to be under the control or at least managed by the government through the various institutions that they have in place, if they do not follow the law that are in place, then it worth absolutely nothing. And let me make this point clear. While it is true that the EPA is doing its best, but the EPA is far beyond performing to the standard because of all of these problems. For example, the Farmington River in Firestone is one of the rivers that has been declared completely contaminated. The St. Paul River and the other river where bomb mines and other people used to carry on activities, those rivers still remain polluted. The Kavala River, that share border between Liberia and the Ivory Coast, there were contamination that went, I think, in 2008, when a hazardous waste was dumped into the territorial border of Ivory Coast. Environmental science 101 tells us what happened uphill affect what happened downhill. Liberia at the bottom of the river and at the bottom of Ivory Coast. So all the contaminant that happened came right into that river. There's a convention, the Basel Convention, that is responsible for transboundary waste. The Ivorian government took them to court and they were able to receive over $100 million for compensation and decontamination. Liberia were never benefited. The Ministry of Lands and Mines and EPA never took the case forward. And these are all some of the accumulations of problems from an environmental perspective. Some people might see it or tend to trivialize it, but they accumulate and becomes a serious burden to the people. So if the people are not healthy as a result of poor environmental condition, the economic growth and economic sustainability is almost impossible.
Thank you. Having said that, having laid that foundation, let's see where we can go with it. What is the goal? So at the end of the day, what is it that we want to achieve with water, sanitation, and the environment? Let's discuss the strategic goal.
The strategic goal, let us begin first of all with the environmental situation. Garbage. Garbage is very important. Garbage is one of the easier conduit through which vector-borne diseases can be transmitted to everybody. It is the water you drink. It is the environment in which you live in terms of the stench that's all over the place. Liberia has a problem with a well-functioning sanitary landfill. Perhaps there's one state on a construction that has not been completed. What Liberia has now is what we call holding station. Holding stations are different from engineering sanitary landfill. Holding stations are for temporary containment, and engineers, sanitary landfill are there to process everything else. That is not in existence now, effectively. And so, as a result of that, you can't have anything successful going on in the country with respect to the human health that can lead to the positive gain of prosperity and longevity. So there has to be a plan of action. And one of the weaknesses that we find in most of the problem with respect to addressing the major environmental problem is the political will that is lacking. The political will, in a sense, is that our unitary form of government is such that the president, he has the power. When the president is not connected or stand with people in the particular area to say, let's come together and do this, chances are they never get done. And this is the problem what Liberia is facing. Like before we came on, I made a little analysis about Kigali, Rwanda. Kigali is the cleanest city in Africa today. Some people argue it's the cleanest city in the world. Is the best in Africa. But Liberia and Rwanda got just about parallel history in terms of the war that started in our country in 1989, and Rwanda war started in 1990. 500,000 people died, according to the statistics, and over 1 million people died in Rwanda. Rwanda war lasted about 4 years plus. Liberia year, perhaps the war lasted about 14 years or so. But the point I'm trying to make here is Rwanda was able to make a quick turnaround, and that city became the cleanest city in the world. And it's now the hub for businesses, for international conferences, and companies are moving into Rwanda, Kigali, Rwanda, and other parts of Rwanda because of the involvement of the political leaders that are there. They took the issue and they stood up, and there is a day selected in every month where the president himself is in the street with the citizen to clean their city. And it's not only in Kigali, in other parts of Rwanda. This is something they do every month. So we are appealing to the government that one of the ways we can do that is to appeal to our political leader. That's the only way we can overcome the environmental issue. The president and the political leaders have to pay serious attention to it. Today Today we all okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to the environment, what is it that we want? What's the goal?
The goal here is we must clean. We must clean.
So for environment, we want a clean environment.
Clean environment. And the first place the big.
What's for water? What's the goal? What do we want for water?
For water, we have to revisit the Liberia Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene Commission, which was created some maybe 10 years ago. I'm not sure, but it is there to take care of the sanitation, hygiene, and the water. But that agency is dormant.
Right.
It has not performed to the standard. It doesn't. It's very even appear very difficult to say whether it even exists. And so these entities are there with very defined processes of how to do business, but they do not coordinate. The whole time I've been doing stuff for the EPA, I've never heard the involvement of WASH, water, sanitation, and hygiene. So what it is the essence of this entity when it's there and supposed to, because water is very critical. All of these things all help to create poor environmental conditions when they are not to the standard that they ought to be. So we need to visit that entity and apply what I call SWOT analysis. Let's see what the strengths, let's see what the weaknesses are, what the opportunities and what the threats are, and wherever need to be improved, whether it's capacity building, let us do that. But one of the agencies that need to be looked at carefully using that SWOT analysis, and so is EPA as well. In as much that EPA has made some progress, the agency needs full capacitation, which it does not have. And if the agencies that are responsible to carry on or execute those things that will bring about the kind of health that we need, then it is almost impossible. Let's go to the Ministry of Health. There's an environmental health department at the Ministry of Health. Is that agency kind of a coordinating with EPA and WASH? Chances are no, there are a lot of lapses. So that concept of SWOT analysis that I just spoke about should be applicable to this entity, and let's do a complete review of their performances, what are the capacity that are needed, and let the lawmakers make appropriate budgetary allotment, training, and the kind of expertise that these entities need in order to meet the challenges ahead in terms of a clean and a sun and a very effective, friendly environment.
Thank you. So the goal here is we want a clean environment, a clean and
Yes.
friendly environment, clean
Mhm.
and safe drinking water.
Yes.
And the reason we're doing this is, and we're going to come to the actual plan that we're going to use. Why? Because as the saying goes, when we fail to plan, we are planning to fail.
Yeah.
So, having discussed the goal of where we want to go with this, I
Mhm.
believe there are challenges.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the challenges briefly, and then we can go to your action plan as to how we can attain safe drinking water, clean and friendly environment, and so on and so forth. Let's discuss some challenges here.
Okay. Obviously, there are challenges. There will always be challenges, but those challenges can always be overcome by our ability to look at them carefully using the same concept that I just told you about, or SWOT analysis. It's very critical that we continue to bear that in mind. And that's the only way you get to know what is working and what is not working, what needs to be improved and what needs to either remain the same. And so that you monitor and evaluate as you go along to make sure that you are reaching the goal that you're supposed to reach. And so it is important that those challenges we look at them carefully. And then another thing, we also got to look at the implementation of the laws. The environmental laws in Liberia supposed to be revised, I think, every 5 years. Now, I'm not too sure on that, but I know it's supposed to be revised at some point in time. And since Ben Donny was there, may his soul rest in peace, and Dr. Ama, that document had never been visited. When Anya Voheri took over and Nad Blaman, there was an attempt. But when I last read the State of the Environment report, the environmental regulation on the books have not been reviewed. So that tells you that there is some serious weaknesses that are there because time have been changing. There's new technology around that dealing with the application of certain environmental concerns. Now, if your law are not being reviewed to meet the current challenges and demand, then chances are you are missing out. So we have to look at that particular review document of the EPA because the last state of the environment document that I read, this a very identical problem that we're talking about here had not been addressed. And so it is very critical that the next thing we need to hold, now if I say hold our political leader responsible, I'm not saying it in the context of demeaning or try to make any accusation to anybody, so to speak. But in order for our system to work, we have to make sure that the law that we create are enforceable. Because if the laws are not enforceable, then whatever we do can never succeed. And that's unfortunately that's how our system is built. Because we don't have our superintendent are not elected, our superintendent are appointed. These are the heads of our various counties. So they serve at the will and pleasure of the president. So even if the constituents do not like the operation of that particular superintendent in terms of the environmental condition, there is no way they can remove that person. It is only the president, and the lawmaker that can do that. So what I'm driving out here is it is important that the president get involved in this whole environmental movement to keep the country clean, to keep it to that respectable level that any country on the civilized country on this earth deserve. Like again, I go back to Rwanda. It is important because Rwanda has a very success story. So it is always good to make reference to that. And with their common similarities, if not identical, but common similarities in terms of where the both countries started from, and what has happened, and how the other country were able to turn things around and be the way it is as one of the cleanest city in Africa. So that can happen. There are good laws on the books in Liberia, but they all lack enforceable mechanism. And when these laws are not enforced, Brother Ja, who will be coming to this program for the next 10 years and saying the same thing over and over. So it is important. And the people need to be educated too. The citizens need to be educated, because at the bottom of the ladder, at the bottom of everything that is going on, they are the ones that are being impacted. And they should be able to have a voice. They should have ownership. And their civil responsibility must be exercised. That whoever is taking their charge in making sure that they have a very living condition, the people should be accountable.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing water, sanitation, the environment, and the plan. Our goal here is to have a plan. So we discussed the current situation. Dr. Koffa discussed that as deplorable when it comes to water, sanitation, and the environment as a whole. And our goal here is to have a clean and friendly environment, clean and safe drinking water. We have challenges, yes, we do. There are challenges everywhere. So let's come to, what do we do now, doctor? What is the action plan? What is our plan? How do we attain the friendly environment we talk about, clean and safe drinking water, garbage-free cities in Liberia? What's the plan?
Well, plan number one, first of all, we have to engage the government. And let us all understand that the whole idea of solid waste management, it is not an easy task. World Bank put forth a proposal some time ago that every house in Liberia should be taxed, because they do generate the trash. Most of the businesses are taxed. The market association in all of the jurisdiction, the marketeers pay some money to the association. But what the association does with that money, sometimes it is not clear. And so first of all, so we got to look at all of that and let the government do its part. Let people be held accountable, and let a robust educational program be open. Let the government make sure with other volunteer NGO that want to come in and help. The issue of education is very critical, because when the people are educated through their bilingual languages or whatever means for them to comprehend the critical essence of understanding what the environment can do to them, because if you befriend the environment, the result will be good. If you become evil to the environment, the result will be bad. We have to make it clear, very simple. Let the government invest in education. Now, part two, the whole cost of maintaining solid waste is very expensive. Liberia government can handle all of that now because of the crisis we went through. The war, Ebola, and the current situation. Even here in the United States where we live, Mr. Ja, I know twice a week your trash is collected. Yeah. But you pay for it, either from private entity, but it is all coordinated, or from your city government. But your trash is collected either once or twice every week. We cannot tax people in every house for various reasons. First of all, unemployment in Liberia, depending on who you ask, is between 75 to 85%. Even if they have job, maybe they pay is $250. Back arrest costs almost $60. So how can you go to that individual to say, look, we'll charge you $10 every month to pay for your trash? World Bank did an analysis and they checked it, and the government kind of rejected it because they know that it was almost impossible. But if we cannot do that because of the current situation in terms of our job and money, then we have to find other sources to bring in money that will help the situation. One of those areas, I hope I'm not going beyond the topic now.
Go ahead.
If I do, I will come back. One of the sources that we can use is to begin to tax other areas. Like I was proposing the other that every plane that lands on Roberts International Airport or James Spring fee, they should be taxed, and that money should be put in the reserve for the environment and other things. Every ship that berths at the port of Monrovia or Greenville or Buchanan, There should be some taxation, and that money should be, because you know what? When these ships come, they have sanitation that they dispose of. How effective do we know that the EPA have proper control over the disposal of these feces that are in the ship that they dump? Because they dump them when they get there, they do. But when they dump them and we do not have proper control, it impact our marine population. And most of our people they have their survival through going to fish and other things. And when they catch those fish and bring them and sell it to all we eat something that is not good from the fish. It may be very minute, but it's accumulative. And that's how people get sick. That's another way we can make money. There's another thing. To every businesses that in the community, there should be some taxation. And that tax must exclusively be for the environment. Now, this is the other part. The other part that we are working on now is to reach out to our diaspora friends and brothers. Those of us who are living in the diaspora, who are the Liberians and other sympathizers. We got to come to the aid and help, because there is no way this government, and because of the very reason I just outlined, some of the challenges we face, that doesn't mean to say that the government can't even do better than that, but it is cost exhausted. So we have to come in, and this is the idea of this whole coalition partnership organization for which we had a conference yesterday, is to see how can we have to go in and help the Liberian government, the urban community that are suffering from this trash collection. We can do something. We can take on that responsibility, even if we are not 100% able to do it all. But we can meet the government halfway. The mayor of the city of Pittsville, she says she wants a holding station for her trash to be collected. She's talking about $750,000. There's a current landfill going on in Chismelbury. We in the diaspora, we are over 300,000 Liberians living in the diaspora, maybe more than that. If each and every one of us contribute $5, just $5, just do the calculation. But in order for us to do that, we have to convince them, because many of them are frustrated, just as I am. How do I contribute to a system that does not demonstrate transparency and accountability? But you know what? At the end of the day, it's our people, the very people that we care for, are the ones that die. Can we not do something? $5 isn't much, but we must set up a system that it must be accountable and it must be transparent. So that when Mr. Jack contributes $5 at the end of the quarter or at the end of a project, let's show all the receipt and everything that this is how we use the money. If we do that to meet our government halfway, we're not promoting the government, we are helping our people to live a healthy life, be productive, and live longer. That's all we are doing. And when we put these steps in place and we set up a system to monitor it, we can help our country. And then we can be able to ask our government or put them to the point where we demand transparency and accountability. Most government will listen, especially when you're doing something and you're asking them, okay, this is what we are doing, but what is your part you're playing? I think we can do that. Yeah. And this is very, very important, and this is why we are preaching.
And not to be political, you talk about the taxes at the airport, because these planes are coming in the country with their own trash. We talk about ships, we talk about big businesses also happen to pay that sanitation or garbage tax, right? Mm-hmm. Here is the question, and this one is coming from one of our viewers here. Say the tax collectors will eat most of the money. Then what? Also, the $5 you are asking the diaspora Liberians to pay, it may not be accounted for. Then what? So what actually can we do to ensure? I mean, you can't get in the mind of the government, but what can you do then?
Well, I can probably speak of the $5 that I suggested was just a number I'm throwing out there. It could be more, it could be less, but that one I can guarantee with those that are part of the coalition, including Leader Fund, myself, the Association of Liberian Businesses, and we are recruiting more. These are very good organizations with good leadership, and we will set up a transparency and accountability system to make sure that whatever money is contributed, there's a targeted project we're going to do one at a time. Because what we have already started, we have started and begin to work on certain things to go to Moravia and begin educational awareness during the rainy season. Because you can't engage in collecting trash now because most of the trash now are all filled with water and what have you. It would be a greater challenge to do that. We've already engaged the mayor of the city of Moravia and the mayor of Peaceville and hopefully other mayors in different cities, and they have committed to provide the trucks and front-end loaders. So that take up half of the expenses, so to speak. So when we get there to begin the educational awareness, we will go to schools, we will go to communities, and we'll talk to the people and carry out the basic, simplistic educational mechanism to make them to understand and take ownership of their own environment. And the issue of sustainability is very critical too, because what we don't want to happen that I've heard from the mayor of the city of Montreal say, look, Dr. Koffa, we try to clean our city, but as soon as we clean, we come leave from there the next day, the people go and put the trash there because they're not enforcing the law. In Gengali, time for clean up. If the police see you driving down the street, you're not clean, they will stop you, they will put you down, you will clean. If those kind of law, I mean, it's not being mean, but in order for you to effectuate what you need, there has to be some level of punishment. I'm not saying harsh punishment, but if you punish somebody for just willingly throwing trash in the street and cares nothing about it, and you let them go, then other person that see anything, well, that's a normal way to go. So, we have to change things around and we must keep our city clean. And it's important that we do that. So, this will be an ongoing discussion. Now, the collection for the taxes from the airport, from the seaport, from the ship that coming in, Brother Jah, I can't say much to that because I'm not in the government. But if we approach the government and the immediate entity that are responsible, and we have the kind of conversation with them and say, look, we have to have some level of transparency so that our counterparts or our donor, because we'll also be appealing to international community. There has to be something, and we have to set something up. And I hope the government can listen to us because this is all in their favor. And we can't take away our pride and dignity to keep our surroundings so dirty. Liberians are not known to be dirty people. We are clean people. Why are we doing this to ourselves? And our people just dying. It is unreported, but it is a tragedy.
Dr. Koffa, let's say we had a government that is responsible, very accountable and transparent, and you were called in to advise the government has what to do regarding water, sanitation, and the environment. What will that be?
Well, the first thing I would do when that opportunity comes up and I have to do it, I will first of all call the head of those entities that are responsible for controlling the trash, controlling sanitation and the water and everything, and call a kind of a meeting with all the head of the entity and look at their books. Then again, apply the concept of the SWOT analysis. What do you have? What are you achieving? What are your obstacles? What are your problems? What are some of the threats you have? Give us an overview of your entity. Let's look at it from a professional perspective. This is no political now. We are talking about professionalism being applied at that level. Let us review, and every entity has its own expertise, and we can bring the expertise together. I'm not an environmental engineer. I am not a water engineer. That's a different area in the environmental field. And we can bring all the experts together to have the conversation, to see, look, this is about the country. What can we do? What is your problem? And let us identify the problem. Then when we identify the problem, then we'll do a summary report and see what needs to be done for each entity. Then we take that to the Liberian people or the government. And that is the first way to begin. To be honest with you, the organization that I work in, I work with the government in the district in the district of Columbia. We do analysis so often to test our capability, what we're doing right and what we're not doing right. And we have a budget of over billions of dollars, And not that we solve all the problems, but we significantly address those issues of concern. And I think this is where we need to start from. And it's very critical that the government is listening. And we should let us do this not yesterday, but do it now.
Let me come back to the quote. If you don't know where you are going, any road can take you there. when it comes to water, sanitation, and the environment. For those joining us now, paint me a clear picture as to where we need to go.
Well, the clear picture for the water situation is that we have to bring in the Water and Sewer Corporation. It's a very critical entity that should work in line with WASH, the EPA. But the entity all want to work separately. I don't know why, but maybe that's how the system is set up. And address water and sewer has a very critical problem. We have infrastructure problem because most of the pipes that are processing the water, these are old pipes. Those pipes need to be replaced. And it takes a lot of money. But we have to know what are the main concerns from the leadership of this entity in order to be able to find solution. So the government need to pay attention to water and sewer. If less than 10% of the population is receiving safe drinking water, the question is why is it that 90% are not? Okay? We want to know. Then we want to find out from EPA, how often do you test the water in the supermarket in those bottles? I can remember one time I was there, Mary Brook closed down one place. And I went there, I saw it myself. John, it was disappointing. The people were taking the water from the well and they were lying to the people that were disinfecting the water and they put it in the bottle. And that was dirty water, they were putting in the bottle. And people were going there, buying this from the supermarket, thinking that was the best water. Wow. And another issue is the issue with that plastic, the water they put in the plastic bag. I think that needs to be stopped. That's another way of putting or selling unpurified water to the people. Those things are not being tested. They need to be tested. And this is why it is important that the government has to come to the table and bring in experts that know these things. Let's do a complete overhaul of this entity that have so much impact on the livelihood of the people. Like the WASH, the water and sewer, the EPA, and most of the municipalities that generate so much traffic because of the population growth. These things are critical, and this is why, and I don't know how to explain it even further, but that is the only way we can do it. Put in the testing system, make sure water and sewer is doing what is right, make sure WASH is doing what it's supposed to do. Once the entity that are of critical concern are brought together, and this issue are discussed, it takes process. This thing is not event. There are a lot of processes that involve in order for you to get to where you want to go. But it has to start from somewhere.
Let's look at the cost. Let's take just garbage alone, sanitation. What does the cost look like to clean? Let's take one city, Pennsville.
Yeah. Well, to clean Pennsville on a monthly basis, if we based on what I just told you that the city corporation agreed to bring the trucks, maybe they will help with the front end loader because there are some other part of tribe that you can't use manpower by hand because they are just too huge, almost like a mountain. So the only thing you can get to do is to bring in a front end loader to move those things. Now, if they can do that, the education company alone can take about $25,000 a month to do that educational company. But that educational company will not only be for Pennsville, it will be for the whole of the Monserrato County. And the reason why we stress in Monserrato County, specifically Morrisville, Pennsville, and the borough of Nicholtown and Lockington and Jamaica and all the other places, because these places are densely populated. Morrisville was made to take just over 400,000 people. But that city now has a population of close to 1.5 million. That is very scary. So every infrastructure that is there is stretched thin. It's stretched thin. And so we have to start with that educational process. So we estimated about $25,000 a month to carry on that educational process and to begin the first impact. Now, over a year, it probably could run up to $200,000 to probably $225,000. These are very low numbers. They could be high because if you bring in other, and the reason why they are low, we who are the experts in these very different areas, we go there and almost give our expertise almost free because we are Liberians. But if you put a price tag on every expertise that we bring in, we're talking about pretty close to about $50,000 a month. Of course, that money can be raised. It can be raised. And when you talk about it, people talk about competing priorities. But what can be competing of a priority about your health than any other thing? Because if you don't have good health, there's nothing else you can do.
True.
So it's very important that we invest in this thing. Now, the health aspect of it, that's a different ball game we can go into and begin discussion. But we are talking about making sure the environment is clean, so that you can be like somebody who from Gangali can stand in the gutter and eat a food. And because it's yes.
Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we go to our viewers' comments.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Welcome back. This is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Our topic, let's have a plan, water, sanitation, and the environment. My guest, Dr. Maurice Tennessee Koffa, a native of Bokonjiri, southeastern Liberia. He's joining us from the state of Maryland. Dr. Koffa, let's see some of our comments. We have Abraham Political Setu. I'm watching the entire team live from the office of the Veterans Bureau on the most talk about Bakube Avenue in Dole community.
Oh, Dole community, okay.
Okay, Abraham, welcome. Thanks for watching. Judy is also watching. Dr. Mariah Seaton says, greeting my friend and brother, Dr. Koffa. Here are suggested plans and proposals. Dr. Jerome Gilman says, a great show. Here are Dr. Seaton's plans and proposals. Privatize city services, design and develop drainage system. We need landfills for garbage proposal. He said, I visit Liberia every year and have not seen landfills for disposal of garbage. Jerome Gilman responded, I agree with you. We need to do something drastic. But with the small budget, I don't know if they can afford to build a landfill in all counties. Let's start with Monserrado County. Josh Galakpa said, the SWOT analysis took me back to my crisis management class. Abby Tyler said, try some accountability analysis. Willard Dunbar, thanks, Dr. Koffa. Indeed, sanitation of our environment is at the crux of Liberia's problems. I watched a clip of Red Light Market today and was appalled at the sight in my country. And Zion Boazizi said, waste create job, money, and energy out here. Why not can we invest in it? Like waste, that's money, that's gold.
Yeah.
We turn our trash to gold. Just continue. You want more tax for airlines? How many planes fly in and out of Liberia? You could keep them away from Liberia. He said that's a drawback. I don't believe. Abby said you should just get a waste management company. Sam Jackson said, Dr. Koffa, I agree with you 70%. However, city dwellers must bear some responsibility to know the importance of trash disposal. One produce of waste is gas. Gas is what keeps our home warm during winter and sustain our water heater for our shower, kitchen, and jacuzzi. Fatou Seyon said, let's revisit the policy former Mayor Mary Braw has in place that kept Monrovia clean. We can make some changes if need be. And Rob Weir said, the population in Monrovia is just too much for the city. Dr. Koffa, these are some of your comments, your response.
Yeah, that's quite true. I don't know where to start from, but all of the questions that have been posted are quite necessary and well written. But I first of all start with the aspect of it that have to do with the cost. The projection we just made, or that I just made to you, might sound quite little, but we have to start from somewhere. We must build on somewhere that we start from. Then when the international community begin to see the impact, if we ask them to come in, they can come in. The issue of sanitary landfill It's a very huge budget. It's in the millions of dollars. We're talking about between $5 to $10 million to put up a very good functional sanitary landfill. And we may not want to build sanitary landfill in every county because according to the write-up, the scientific write-up, sanitary landfill usually are 100,000 per one sanitary landfill, depending on the size. And most of the environmental problems we're facing today are not in the rural areas. Trash are not mostly because I visited Sino, I visited Maryland County, and I visited other counties. If you go in the interior, the places are clean. The people maintain. The only problem they have is when those BB company go there and start playing with their land, what have you there, where the erosion start to become a problem. So the major trash issue are in Morovia, Yekepa, and some of the those urban cities. So we can deal with that. Pittsburgh definitely needs a sanitary landfill because Pittsburgh has a population of about 400,000 people. And Morovia has about 1 point something million. So Morovia needs at least 2 to 3 sanitary landfill. Definitely one has to be across the bridge around Tuetan area to accommodate Lokintown, Jamaica Road, and the other rest of the people down there. And Pittsburgh need one. And maybe one need to go somewhere between not Kakata, but further down in Bon County area there. But again, there will be a long way to transport. But once we have the trucks, because again, why is it that we're talking about the truck issue here? Liberia, in order for you to carry a company to actually absorb the trash collection and carry and develop the trash into another reusable material and what have you, Liberia is not producing enough trash to the point where you will go and build a big industry that will capture, except where you have an arrangement to collect the trash from Sierra Leone, Guinea, and maybe some part of Africa. Because some companies that want to carry all these kind of processing trash, something, they need tons of trash per day, especially plastic. Yesterday, we had a guy on our program who described how he can use the plastic bags to make chairs, to make building material, to build homes, affordable homes. And we are in conversation with him. And so all the questions that I asked Dr. Seaton, who's a very close friend of mine, she made a very good suggestion. And everybody else had made a very good suggestion. But my appeal here is, let's start from somewhere. We are open to conversation as to how we can develop a plan of action. But one thing we must not hesitate to do now is the level of trash that is actually fostering the street of our country, that is having a severe impact on the helpless and the voiceless. Now, even the air, those are all that go to Liberia. Don't think when you go to Liberia, you stay there for 2 weeks, when you come back, you well. No, that's not true. Because the very air that you breathe when you enter Morovia, I don't know, some of y'all can observe it, that air you breathe in Morovia is a little bit dense than regular air. And you stay there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The longer you stay there, the longer you accumulate the pollutants into your system. It's a little bit, it is minute, so to speak, but it's accumulative. And by the time you low, you got headache, you got this, especially when you got pre-existing health condition, it triggers those kind of things. And so it is to all our benefit. So what much more about somebody who is living there? The one time I visited my Gibby, the Wi-Fi don't have their place, the Stockton Creek area. I went in that community, I have to hold my nose for the rest of the 2 hours I was there. I just to release a little bit of breathe. And I could not continue myself. Now imagine those that lived there for years. Chances that their internal system have been compromised. And so there is a need. All we are pleading for is the problems are there. And it appears that the government does not have the capability to deal with them now. What can we do from the diaspora perspective? How can we come together and put in place a plan that we can all share and look at and take an action?
And Dr. Koffa, that's the question I want you to conclude with. Where do we go from here? What is the plan? What can we do?
Okay, our plan is three-pronged approach. We want to start with education. And our education process will also open up communication with the government and these strategic agencies that are outlined. To our benefit, we have begun conversation and they are really responding. Like the meeting we had yesterday, the mayor of the city of Pinsville was on, and she gave us a complete layout of what are some of the problems that she is encountering. While we couldn't get the mayor of Monrovia because of the Delta variant going on in Monrovia, they're using the city hall to vaccinate a lot of people, so he got caught up and he couldn't come. We understood that. But the problem in Pinsville are almost identical to the problem in Monrovia City. So we conclude that we could replicate whatever it said that needed to be done in Pinsville, it should be done. But the first action is education. We stress education. Thank God that through me and other people, we able to create environmental curriculum for Stella Maris University. They put out their first graduate and they're about to put out their second graduate. Tuckman University, during Dr. Elizabeth Davis administration, we created the environmental curriculum, and they have just put out few students that graduated from there. So we can use these students, and bring them in so that they can begin to feel the technical application of what they learn. So we don't have, like the people normally say, brain drain. So we are now creating. And so that educational component, we want to get this high school involved. We want to speak to the university. We want to speak to the Ministry of Education to say that, so let's create a curriculum for the primary school system, from the secondary school system, so that the children, as they learn, they get to also learn about the environment, what the environment means to them, what our forests can do to us, what our natural resources can do. They have to know the difference, because if they do not know, they will be at a losing end, because we can't exploit the resources we have now at the detriment of the next generation. So we got to be mindful. Then the second thing is execution. After we have done the education, we want to see how do we go and begin to clean the trash. But we must do education first, then execution. How we're going to clean, we already mapped out. We identify one community at a time. We can't do it simultaneously, but we'll do it one community at a time. And then the last one is sustainability. If we carry out all of these activities and clean a city, is the city going to remain clean? We have to think about that, because if you do not put in a good sustainability plan, that means if you clean community B, by the time you go to community C and come back, community B is dirty again. So that educational component of it will also talk about the sustainability. Now, what is the sustainability concept? If every community member know what they're up against, and that it's important that you keep your community clean, and then we talk to some of these companies to create some kind of a tracking system, or to give them some benefits. Say, okay, if community A and B clean your community to meet the category we want you to do, we will give you this. Just a little token, just to entice them to do. We have to apply all of these things. I talked to my son. He's currently working on a song for trash collection. If that song becomes successful, that means if he completes it, it could be another way of reaching out to the community people, using music and whatever we can even dramatize to help the people understand. But the people got to understand in order to take ownership of their community. That is the concept of sustainability we are driving at. And this is where we need all the support and help. This is not an effort to usurp the responsibility of these local municipalities, but we see it as a way to help them. We have to devise a new strategies of approach, a complete paradigm shift as to what we normally do, because it has not been working. So let's take a new approach. And this is why, everybody is being asked to come aboard, and let's work this thing out together. Liberia is our country. No matter how long we live here, we have to go back. But mostly the people who are there, that give them some hope.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koffa. And just this alone has given me some hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will say thank you so much for watching. Tonight at 8 o'clock, guess what's happening? Guess who's coming? The political bulldog of Focus on Liberia, Mr. Anthony Nawesia, is going to be here. Wave, the rise and fall of Eugene Lamin Fagon. Eugene, as the former Deputy Minister of Press and Public Affairs, Ministry of Education, or Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism, is out of his job. Mr. Sia will be discussing the rise and fall of the tough-talking Eugene Lamin Fagon. You don't want to miss it. It's at 8 p.m. tonight. Dr. Koffa, I want to thank you so much for coming. Next week, we're going to continue on this plan. And this time, we're going to revisit either agriculture or education, but we're going to come to you during the week as to what's going to be happening. Also, this week on Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be discussing the chances of Joseph Newman Boakai for 2023. And then on Saturday, we're going to be discussing the progressive. Long-time progressive Ezekiel Pajivo will be our guest. Dr. Koffa, your final statement, and we're going to close the broadcast tonight. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much. I want to use the opportunity, first of all, to thank Focus on Liberia for continuously giving us this platform. It is very critical. Disseminating information of this magnitude to our people to understand so that we can all come together and address the ills in our country. It is very critical. While it is true that government bears the responsibility to handle most of the problem, but sometimes we ourselves as citizens, in and out of Liberia, bear equal responsibility to play our part. If we can do one thing to give our people hope in life, chances for them to thrive in challenging circumstances, it's the best that you can do to give to them. So we ask you to join this effort. The effort is not political. It's purely humanitarian. We ask you to join the coalition. Go on our website, africaenvironmentalwatch.org, or give me a call, or text me, or text Ava Togba of Little Fund, or text Liberia, the Association of Liberia Businesses in America, and join the coalition. We have a GoFundMe that will be coming out tomorrow. And if you can't, make a contribution, and I can guarantee you whatever contribution you give will be demonstrated with high level of transparency and accountability. And for every step we move in doing anything in Liberia, you will know it, and you will know how your penny is spent. Thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless Liberia.
On that note, I want to say thank you again, Dr. Koffa. Thanks to all our viewers, those watching now, even those who are going to watch later via YouTube or via Hat FM in Monrovia. Until then, whether you believe Monrovia is clean now or is not clean, we can't continue to have a city that is hold your nose and pass. But whatever it is, we are all Liberians, and we must do everything it takes to keep Liberia clean. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our